This film study video is going to focus on Jameson Williams' performance in the Lions' 44-22 win over the Washington Commanders Sunday afternoon. Dan Campbell, of course, took over the play calling duties. First of all, do I think it was a good move? Yes, I discussed that in the reaction video that I put out Sunday night, in addition to a film study that I put out on Jahmyr Gibbs yesterday. Williams had 6 catches, 119 yards, 1 touchdown. The depth of his routes, did it change? Yes, I believe it did. The timing at which he was also targeted, as well as other players, I think is quite intentional. I'll make a couple of explanations / analogies during the course of the video and give you some summary thoughts at the end. We'll get things started. I'll generally have Williams spot shadowed in yellow. This is a 3rd and 6 with Amon-Ra St. Brown off the field, and I'll give a couple of possible explanations for that throughout the course of the video. In any case, it's one of a couple of comeback routes that we have out on the sideline when Washington is in a one-high safety look. So basically the corner lined up over Jameson Williams has pretty much no help at all. There is a first option here, Jameson Williams. That's the one that Goff takes. In addition, secondary option moving right to left for for Goff would be Laporta in motion from left to right. The timing on these was really sharp, number one. Number two, Jameson Williams caught the ball once, meaning it was clean, crisp, catching the football, and then able to turn and get upfield. You see this dynamic a couple of times. The trust that Goff had in him, was pretty obvious, but in addition, the trust that Dan Campbell had to call a number of these plays. Basically, Jameson Williams on so many of these snaps that I'm going to show you, he's operating as the X receiver into the boundary. Same play from the end zone angle. Like I said, it's a 3rd and 6, ball in the middle of the field. So technically he's not into the boundary, but this shouldn't be a surprise that early on Washington was attempting the same blitz that Minnesota had a ton of success with last week. The inside linebacker cross blitz. The only problem is they're dropping Von Miller out of here. So because Von Miller drops out as the edge defender, it basically means that Gibbs has a little bit more help than he did last week against the Vikings in the form of Tate Ratledge. I still think Gibbs kind of tips over a little bit, but you can see the dynamic that Washington is going for. Frankie Lavu crossing the center's face, Wagner second, and because this defensive tackle peels out and Sewell takes him over, Ratledge has the awareness to know he can come back and help out Gibbs. In any case, you get the ball out quick to Williams, something I think many people have been talking about in comment sections, and I'm sure all over social media. Give him a chance to make a move after catching the ball. Basically, use his speed and agility to generate some yards after the catch. We're actually into the second possession here, and Williams will not be targeted. He's at the bottom of the screen. He's obviously not the X receiver. That's Isaac Tesla up at the top of our screen. This is going to be a touchdown to St. Brown on a 3rd and 7. The route that Williams runs is actually inconsequential, but you'll see this dynamic recreated multiple times from this game against the Commanders and many others, in that you get a clear out route. This is really classic Ben Johnson era stuff, where you have 2 in-breaking routes, the second of which breaks underneath. In this case, Goff gets the ball out so quick, and that's the reason why I'm pointing this out, that St. Brown's able to catch it and then avoid Bobby Wagner completely. As soon as St. Brown catches it, gets his right foot in the ground. Now, plants, bursts upfield. That one put Detroit up 14-0. To this point, they'd ran 19 plays on 2 drives, 143 yards, so above 7 yards per snap, and they were 3 of 3 on 3rd downs. 5th possession, Williams actually is the X receiver with the ball on the left hash for the offense. This is going to be a comeback route. It illustrates, obviously, his feet, his great agility, and then the trust that Goff has in him. It's a play-action concept out of jumbo 12 personnel. So running back's going to come downhill. There's really only 2 routes here, and I think this fits with a lot of the stuff that we had seen John Morton calling earlier in the season. The difference here for me is when we saw these deeper routes on Sunday, you're looking at pretty much a max protection scheme. That didn't seem to always be the case when Morton was calling plays. If we were going to be judgmental or extrapolate too much here, that would be my larger point conclusion. But getting back to the scheme and why this works, why it creates a one-on-one, it's a one high safety look. There's no one from the bottom of the numbers out to help this corner out at all. Goff is clearly looking to Williams immediately, able to put his foot in the ground, stop on a dime. The DB's unable to do so. Not only does he catch the football, able to turn and then try to spin back to the sideline and get some yards after the catch. It's 22 yards, creating those one-on-ones against outside corners. It's going to help any team with a number one wide receiver. In the case of the Lions, they think they have two, right, in St. Brown and Williams. Same play from the end zone angle. Washington's, trying to load the box as much as possible. Like I said, it's a jumbo 12 personnel look. So the strong safety, number 20, is in the box to that side. I want to mention as many times as possible that St. Brown is off the field because in the end, I have a theory about some of the usage that we saw with Gibbs, Williams, and even St. Brown to an extent. It's a max protection, as I explained, from the all-22 angle, off-play action. And the guys on the right side, I think, do a really good job, number one. Number two, Sewell is definitely looking at the second level. Watch how he's doing this. This is something that, I'm just jealous of, that you have guys that are aware on the offensive line. Both him and Radledge are helping out in play action and looking to the second level to see if they need to peel off and help out with a late blitz. Kind of a dipping throw by Goff, if you will. Williams comes back to gets it. Very reminiscent of a route he ran in Baltimore in 2023. Of course, it was that day that he didn't have any catches on like 5 or 6 targets. But on that particular route, you saw the athleticism. He was able to snap it back down. Perhaps it was even a catch on that one. I may be misremembering. But, the point is he has the speed to threaten DBs vertically, especially when it's a one-on-one. And that allows or opens up intermediate comeback routes that you've seen twice. First on the 3rd and 6, the initial play that I showed you, and then this one here on the 5th possession. Still on the 5th possession, again, he's the X receiver. He's into the boundary with the ball on the right hash. It's a 1st and 10. Detroit's up 25-10. And it's a jumbo 13 personnel group. So there's 3 tight ends, one of which is Dan Skipper. Sewell is on the game. It's a play-action concept. Check out how quickly Goff gets the ball out. He's already loading up to throw. Why? It's a one-high safety look, and he knows that he's already confirmed visually that the safety's not going to jump it. Very similar to the very next play call where Williams gets his touchdown. I have to mention it again, St. Brown is off the field. So in this case, you have multiple examples of Goff is being forced to read someone else first because St. Brown is not available at all. I kind of liken it to NBA teams that have, a great number 1 scorer and a very, very good number 2 or 3 or even 4th scorer. To use that analogy with the Lions, it kind of breaks down because if you're a Lions fan, you believe you have 4 number 2s, right? Between Gibbs, Williams, Laporta, and even Montgomery. A lot of in-breaking routes to show here where Goff is getting rid of the ball quickly to Jameson Williams underneath. I think his route tree or average depth of target, my guess is, probably look drastically different in Week 10, but I could be wrong. Same drive, Williams is actually lined up to the field with the ball on the left hash. St. Brown not a game. I believe there may have been a time where he was hurt in this one, but I've already actually kind of talked about this one, this particular play, for a Jahmyr Gibbs video that I did on Monday. Gibbs had already run, an angle or choice or zig route, whatever people want to call it, to get a touchdown earlier in the game where he released to the outside and then ran over the middle of the field. Well, this route now is going to draw or elicit a reaction from Bobby Wagner. Why? Because he's aware of that touchdown. He's aware of how a teammate got beat earlier on. So, number 1, he's clearing out the middle of the field. Number 2, Laporta is clearing it out as well. And what does that do? It opens up Jameson Williams a little bit later on for the in-breaking route underneath of 10 or 12 yards. In addition, the tight end to the top side of the screen is absolutely wide open. It's number 82. But let's focus on Williams for a moment. Number 1, the ball gets out quick by Goff. It hits Williams in stride so he can run on top of it, gives him space. Space has been created, I should say, for him to run. Let's go back. We'll talk about number 82 up top. I think he's the outside tight end. Initially steps to the outside here, and then he'll release underneath. If Goff did happen to be looking that way, he's absolutely wide open again because there's a one-high safety look. No one out there to help that corner at all over the top. It didn't matter because Williams took advantage of it, flipped into the end zone, and Detroit took a commanding 32-10 lead. Same play from the end zone angle, just so you can see what I'm talking about with Wagner. Again, this is a 1st and 10. As soon as Gibbs opens to that side, Wagner is gone. He's responsible for him in man, number one. Number two, his leverage is to the inside because he doesn't want to let Gibbs put his foot in the ground and then cross his face like he did for the touchdown earlier on against some other linebacker whose name I don't know. Free safety trying to look at Goff and the route. The initial route crossing his face is Laporta. Easy touchdown, right in stride for Williams. A cool moment, I'm sure, for Lions fans to, A, see the guy be able to get a score, but also know or feel like it was becoming obvious that it was a focus of the Lions offense, and Dan Campbell specifically, to get him the football early and often. Moving forward, 7th possession, he's down bottom here. I think St. Brown is up at the top. It's a 2nd and 7, and this is going to be what Goff called a cheat code. It seems so obvious, right, that this is a ridiculous usage of Williams, his speed across the field, particularly in man-to-man. If you combine it with, what ends up being clear-out routes to the top side because they're deeper down the field, does it mean that Jameson Williams might have a more basic route tree with Dan Campbell calling plays? Maybe, sure. Who cares? I mean, if you get these types of results, and he's already beat number 6. Number 6 is already beat before he runs into his teammate. So it wouldn't necessarily have mattered. It would just mean number 6 would be pursuing a little bit closer than he was here, which is like 11 yards of separation. But we've seen this before, and it feels like it was dormant so far in 2025. In any case, Williams takes off, and then he starts to kind of direct traffic. I think he's telling St. Brown, hey, go block the guys in front of you. I've got these dudes handled, the guys who are trying to cover me and chase me. I don't know if this guy gets handled by St. Brown, if this defender, who I believe was originally assigned to Williams, isn't going to be able to go ahead and catch him anyway. Same play from the end zone angle, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it for this particular play. Washington's a one-high safety look again. It's a really nice job by Glasgow, who will peel back or peel off. I've seen other centers in the NFL do this and even college football. Very difficult to get a high school guy to do this, but he's looking for work to his right. The offensive line is trying to sell run action to that side because they're trying to get second-level defenders to flow in that direction. Why? So Jameson Williams can run and cross their face, number one. Number two, now you guys don't see it from this angle, but you did from the previous one. Williams is off-screen to our right, like 3 o'clock position, but he's compressed, tightly aligned. That's so that on this drag out, which is what I would call it, he's already able to attack the defense across the field. But in any case, getting back to Glasgow, he's trying to peel back here and help deal with the edge defenders off the left side. Goff throws it kind of fading away. And I think the phrase he used is accurate, that it's a cheat code for Williams to be able to catch it and run onto this much space. St. Brown kind of tries to peel back, I guess. At a certain point here, Williams is pointing to him, telling him, hey, go block the guys in front of you. Maybe 6 is going to catch Williams anyway, but in any case, it's a great play. I think illustrates the way that Dan Campbell was trying to utilize his talent, whether it was Gibbs or Gibbs or Williams, as opposed to relying on St. Brown so much. We're still on that 7th possession. It's a 3rd and 1, ball on the right hash, so Williams once again is set up into the boundary. You would consider him the X receiver. I think Detroit has to settle for a field goal here, but this one's really illustrative of a couple of things that I mentioned already, which is St. Brown's off the field and Jameson Williams is getting the football. I would really like to see the target share when St. Brown was not on the field this game. I think he played 77% of the snaps against Washington, which was a season low. I'm not saying that it was due to Dan Campbell calling plays. It's just the way that it worked out. I mean, it's a blowout. But in any case, looking quickly in the middle of the field, Goff is not just capable of making fast decisions, he specializes in it, right? Play action, get that right foot in the ground, boom, ball out. Happens to be against a too-high safety look. I think Wagner is probably overreacting a little bit to the run action by Montgomery, meaning Wagner moves so far in this direction that the ball is thrown behind him onto wide open space. Williams takes advantage, I think, for a 17-yard gain. I think it's pretty obvious that it was the right move to try to get Jameson Williams involved as much as possible. I'll revert back to my NBA analogy where you have your top scorer off the court, for like 4 or 5 minutes to rest, and you let the number 2 guy go to work. Detroit believes, you should as a fan, I definitely do, that you've got 3 or 4 number 2s. Gibbs and Williams certainly would qualify. Laporta has the talent level, and Montgomery has been dominant some games. Of course, week 3 on the road against the Ravens. So you got 4 number 2 guys. At a certain point, it's going to be difficult to satisfy everyone's talent level. That's a good thing. It means Brad Holmes has put together such a talented roster on the offensive side that you're going to be somewhat disappointed each week that either Laporta, Jameson Williams, or Jahmyr Gibbs or someone like that is not getting enough touches. Do I think that Morton's way of calling plays and what he was having Goff look at immediately, his first read, was somewhat predictable at times? Yeah, I do. Having said that, this was the right week to have someone else call plays because Washington's defense is poorly coordinated. They just don't match up from a talented. In fact, they didn't match up last year. Truth be told, if Ben Johnson has a better game plan and doesn't go with a needless empty pass when you're down there, possibly getting ready to take a 14-3 lead, you probably are looking at a totally different first half dynamic. I think Campbell made the right choice to be calling plays. The schematic changes with St. Brown playing 77% of the snaps, I wonder what it would look like the plays he's off the field and who got the ball. Did it seem like there was more of a concerted effort to get the ball to Williams and Gibbs when St. Brown wasn't on the field for a particular snap? We know Goff makes excellent decisions, quick decisions, I should say, and the run game certainly lends itself to opening up a wider umbrella of play calls for the offense. Is it going to be less St. Brown-centric moving forward? I don't know. I mean, I would hope that there's going to be games where St. Brown is dominating and you just keep getting him the football. At a certain point in 2025, however, I think it became obvious that Jameson Williams had to be a bigger factor. Again, that NBA analogy, whether it's KD or Curry or LeBron, whatever, someone that when they're on the bench, the number 2 or number 3 or number 4 guy, however you want to categorize it, those guys are going to have increased usage. It's just a theory of mine. I have no idea about the plays when St. Brown was off the field. I do like the fact that when you did see deeper routes, it was max pro. That's just common sense, right? There's nothing extraordinary there. To me, it seemed like at times, to overgeneralize, Morton had deeper routes down the field that wasn't combined or tagged with more of a max pro mentality. I feel like Campbell might have recognized some of that and said, okay, I've got to step in here and get us back towards being more efficient, because that's the point, I believe. It was less so about the overall points per game or touchdown drives. I think total touchdown drives was actually better than 2024 through 9 weeks, but there's just so many 3-and-outs or short possessions, and B, trouble with the offensive line at times. I don't know about the data. I just know that someone in the Lions Discord shared it one day before the Commanders game. I thought it was compelling. In my opinion, that one element that perhaps needs to be mentioned, and I think I've talked about it in the reaction video and then also in the Jahmyr Gibbs video that I did Monday, is that the players trust Dan Campbell, especially the guys who've been there for a while. Now, granted, John Morton was there in 2022. 23 and 24 were obviously very different seasons than that year of 2022, drastically different. You're talking about 2 teams capable of making it to the Super Bowl in 2023 and 2024. Dan Campbell's been there for all of it, been the guy to congratulate almost every one of these players when they got drafted or signed. And so from that standpoint, I think he's got a better overall plan for the team, for the offense, I should say, and each individual. I think that shines through. His first game calling plays, Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs, have an unbelievable impact. And if memory serves, those guys combined for 293 or 294 yards of offense, something like that, out of Detroit's 530 plus. In any case, if you guys enjoyed the video on Jameson Williams, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Likes and comments really help drive the engagement and push the content out to a larger audience. So if you'd like to see my work kind of pushed out there by the YouTube algorithm, please like and comment on the video below. Once it premieres, that is. And then finally, if you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Jameson Williams directly, please consider grabbing a link to this and sharing it out on social media so other Lions fans can enjoy it as well.